But what is interesting to continue this way of thought is, why are you staying then? Why are you staying?
Then I can follow you without any problem, because when you will make mistake, you will tell it.
Of course.
And no problem, we will react and so on. And this role model for me is unfortunately, and this is same for the politician, by the way.
And also, I think I would say here, open mind. And
long-term orientation.
very good, very good. And I'll tell you that I was really surprised when Batista said to me, because innovation really covers a lot of these. But if you're trying to, these firms are very innovative. They're innovative in problem solving within the firm. Innovation. So it would be, your culture, your rewards, your mindset. Again, what Gerard was technology, they always got sold the bad technology because they didn't want, the development that had it didn't want a company copying it.
The size matters. It's easier to bring with you 300, 400, 500 than 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. Or what happened, if it's today the first day of the month, so what happened last month as a summary as well. So we have 4 criteria: people first, so which means safety generally, quality, what are the defects, what do we do good, bad, what are the customer complaints, velocity.
So it
it goes through education. It's a mind education.
It's mind education,
yes,
and not higher education. So that's
sure.
what I want to say.
That's not what I meant.
Yeah.
But it's just that if you haven't been educated to this mind education, yeah, it's more difficult to get it.
Exactly, and that's what, let's say, if parents can do one thing, if school and teachers.
A lot of questions you talked about in the workshops, in the subgroups. You had insights, deeper insights with the speakers from this morning, and I think we take not more than 20 minutes or half an hour, and then we have finished for today, to wrap up a little bit and to have conclusions, maybe insights, takeaways, that you say this was an interesting topic. So I'm now very curious to have insights, for example, from the group from Raphael. Who was joining the group from Raphael? Do you have some major insights you want to share with us? Or from your point of view, what was the interesting point you discussed? And maybe that you can mention something.
I told them that they would have questions and they would have to answer, and no one wanted really to be volunteers. So, yeah, we talked.
No.
Simon?
Well, for my part was, as I've already spoken during the roundtable, was what interests me is what you can say to people when you know that there's no growth opportunity, and how actually to give them a vision that they're going to be motivated into. And so it's true that was what I mainly got out of the roundtable. I know there's been a lot of other technical questions, so I'll let my colleagues talk about that. But my part was mainly about this, and the way I think it was answered was really to, as you said in your presentation, stay focused on the target and really go from the bottom of the chain up to the top. Yeah, and yeah. That would be pretty much what I got out of this roundtable.
I think we talked about the fact that we cannot delegate the goal, right? I mean, the decision or the vision, the design of the vision is a responsibility of the top management. You cannot delegate where we want to be, but then it's our job as leaders to embark everybody as much as we can. And yes, your point is a very good point. I mean, it's not that easy to be motivated in a shrinking or stagnation business rather than growing business. It's more painful. But so the commitment is we'll bring everybody with us, we'll take care of you, we'll understand what are your resistance, your concerns and questions, but we will not change the goal. So we might change the route, but at the end we go where we have to go, because this is our commitment as leaders.
And also we spoke about honesty, and I think your point of view was more you would have to be honest, because you want to avoid, let's say, whenever anything happens, they're going to say, no, you lied, you're a liar, we're not going to believe you anymore. But on the other hand, how far do you think you have to give this good image, good vision to people without lying?
Yes, you can only say what you know and what you are sure for, and that's my personal commitment. I'm going to say what I know, and I promise that if I know more, I'll tell you, but I'm not going to promise things I cannot promise. So yes, someone asked me, what is the long-term commitment? Can you promise something over 2015? No, I cannot. So I know for 2015 we have a good path, a good step, and this is what I'm committing to work with you to make sure we are all there. But you're right that the worst thing that happens is in previous historical changes is that people realize that you lie, or people realize that I cannot trust what the leaders say or what the sponsors say. And this is worse, because then... So one of the things we talked about is understanding what is the perception of the people of the previous changes. Right? So, I think Carolina is linked to what she said is, if we are used to make changes, people know how good or bad we've been in making the changes, whatever the changes are. So they will know or not if I can trust this organization because they've been successful in managing changes, or they are not been successful. So if they have not been, why they would be this time? That's the evidence that people will not trust you. Okay. Unless you recognize, yes, we've been bad in the change before, we know why, we have learned from it. Back to Carolina, learning and recognizing mistakes is the number one duty of the manager.
Who else from this workshop want to comment something? Maybe I think the important thing we heard several times this morning that one challenge is to manage uncertainty and to handle uncertainty, and I think this is a capability we have to develop on each level. So not only on the manager's level, also on the level of in the shop floor or in the administration, that a lot of things are more and more uncertain and not predictable. That's the point, because in the past a lot of things were predictable, and now they are less. And this is a difficulty because we are, as humans, we like to have security. So I said this morning I'm the guy for the security. So what else from the workshop together with Raphael? If there are no other comments, then maybe we go to the workshop of Nancy. I saw that you talked also about uncertainty. So maybe that one of the participants want to comment, or yourself?
I'll let them talk.
Yeah.
Okay, we had different nationalities, and from in our group, from developed and emerging countries. So that was very interesting. From China, India, Europe. And we talked about what are the different aspects in emerging countries and emerging in these companies, which makes them successful. Like, for example, global communication, fast decision making, interesting partners, innovation, flat hierarchy, all different aspects, and went through them and and understand what makes them successful. And all these aspects are interlinked, and that's the success.
Thank you. So, to keep it simple, it was one of the messages also from both of you, and also I think from Georg, was that on one hand we have to keep things simple, and on the other hand what we saw in the presentation also of Raphael, that nothing is so simple, so that we have also to face complexity. But maybe that this is the tension between complexity and simplicity, that we have also to share this and to manage this tension between simplicity on one hand and complexity on the other hand.
What became very interesting was the discussion going around the role of technology. And we came to the point where developed nations, because they've had more resources, were using technology to help them make decision-making easier. But what it was doing in a lot of ways was creating bureaucracy. What was interesting because of the word that was used by one of the participants was resourcefulness. And the emerging world companies, because they didn't have ready resources, were resourceful, and they were having to rely on employees to have that mindset of being resourceful. And so they used communication in order to aid people in making decisions, not to actually help make the decisions themselves. So it was investing in people and relying on your people rather than relying on technology. And that seemed to be a really fundamental difference. And for whatever, for the reason that in the past they haven't had the money to invest in the technology and they haven't had the best technology, what they have had is great people, and they've invested in that. And so that whole, we have great people, we trust our people, we tell them the boundaries of their decision making, and then we let them go and do it. And now we aid them with sophisticated communication to make sure that they can keep doing it, means that they're getting this fast decision making and innovative ideas.
So if I understood it right, one of the advantages in the so-called emerging countries is that they are used to do with less resources more things. So maybe that in Europe, what we call also laziness, maybe it's also the comfortable situation that we have a lot of resources, and so we think that it's not possible with less resources to do the things. And maybe it's one lesson we can learn from the emerging countries. Then also with less you can do more.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So okay. Other comments? So I take one keyword I heard, trust, because in the workshop of Carolina, this was also one topic that we talked, because I attended also to your workshop. We talked also about trust, and that it's difficult also to install a trustful management, or we talked also about the difference between management and leadership. Maybe that one of the participants want to comment this point, or Carolina? Yeah. 20 euros. Well, who was in this workshop?
No.
No. What was the major insight for you from this workshop?
Yes, the definition of innovation. This was the start of our group, that everybody tried to give in his own words a definition of innovation and to reflect it towards the presentation of you. And I think it was interesting for all of us to see the complexity of the understanding of innovation. And you linked all of certain aspects. I'm not able now to give a complete overview, and it's not my role at the moment, but for me it was very interesting to reflect it to my personal situation, and we closed our group that everybody gave a short inside view what he can do
asking or talking to his boss, if he has one, about innovation, how to start a change process, and if he has not, how he could act towards his clients with innovation and in the step into the innovation process.
One interesting discussion also from my point of view was how to break a vicious circle when you have a bad mood and a bad culture in your company. And so we had different approaches to this. One thing you said, and I think it's often used in companies, that you have to exchange the leaders. That if there's new blood, for example, that this helps. But the question was also if there are other possibilities, and I don't remember what was the answer.
Well done, huh? The answer was if there's a real risk for the company to die, that can become the sense of urgency to use existing blood to really decide to commit to change. Without that, complacency makes that you might need or have an easier time if you have external blood coming in with the willingness and the influence and the power to implement a vision, an innovative vision, and allow internally to move towards this vision.
So in our title was the question how to stay hungry. From my point of view, we had different approaches from a very practical approach with a lean management example, and from a more global approach from Nancy, and we saw different examples that it's possible to stay hungry when you have different situations, and that we can learn from each other. And well, for me, the interesting thing was the 4 points you mentioned, how to be innovative. It was one thing was to ask questions. The second one was to observe. The third one was to have networking, and then also to try out, to have experiment something, and maybe we have to continue with this to stay hungry. Yeah, in this curiosity to stay hungry. There's one workshop left. We had no return now from Georg, who wants to give a short feedback from this workshop. With a deep path in our brain, because in the workshop we had the comment was that it was shocking a little bit, this kata coaching. Yes. You remember? A lot of people in our workshop were shocked about the kata coaching. Maybe that you deepened it in your workshop. And what are the insights now when you discussed it with Georg? You're convinced that this is the right way, or you have insights how you will do this next time, 5 times a day for 10 minutes, something new? I don't know. Who was attending to this workshop? New insights about the kata coaching? There, okay.
I'm not sure if we really had any insights, because we were, well, you can say insights, or you can say maybe learnings. We were just openly discussing the fact how our brain works, and how we could maybe influence it, or actually could we not? Could we? Should we do this ourselves? Should we try to influence other people? And we were talking about the problematic about touching really free will and moving out of our comfort zone, which is in a way always painful, but on the other hand we would face problems in case our environment changes, which it does currently. And so I think we probably kind of agreed that it would be a good thing to stay flexible. Maybe we didn't have a final result on how flexible, because of course there's a conflict between the working environment we're in, which demands you to stay very knowledgeable and to have experience in your field. But on the other hand, yeah, you have to be open and to see what's going on around you. So I don't know. Maybe other ideas. I'm not sure. I might have forgotten something.
Okay, but the important thing is what is the takeaway for you, and if this was the major insight.
Well.
Okay. One keyword from this morning for me was also in the presentation of Raphael, the employability. It's a word I did not know 10 years ago. And it's something more or less new arising, but from my point of view, more and more important. And the question is, who is responsible for the employability? Is this the individual person? It's myself, that I'm responsible for my employability, or is this the responsibility of my boss or of the company, or of maybe also the schools, politics, whoever, the society, that they have to provide employability? Who is responsible for the employability? Do you have an answer?
In the group we have spoken a little bit about the ethics of the method of kata coaching, and then we have not spoken about the employability but about the need to be flexible. And in this point we said there are two levels. You have an individual level, so that everybody needs to make all you can to stay or to become flexible if you already taken into a certain path. And then you have the societal responsibility to give the best environment to people to stay and to become flexible. So I think I think it's also the case in the Caterpillar case study that you have the company responsibility to lead the people to in this case, it was the program of 2015. But if the individuals are not flexible to get into the same goal, it's not possible to reach this kind of goal.
Maybe if I can add something, we had also the discussion about people who have been used to their environment, let's say working in coal mines for 30 years until they get shut down, and so the question was raised, like you said, who was responsible? Have they been too stupid to look outside the box and not to see other opportunities? But then on the other hand, of course, you have to say, if nobody implants the spirit of this open-mindedness to you, who's to blame? And so certainly, I think personally, in the end, everybody has to look out for himself, but also empower other people to look around and to be able to be flexible and change.
I think you can hand over to the neighbor, because we had a discussion in the lunch break about the employability.
Yes, I share this point, but I think it's above all an individual responsibility, but the companies are also responsibilities to accompany people and for that. So it's yes, a compromise.
So the responsibility is shared.
Yes, shared between individuals and companies. Yes.
Maybe that all the different levels I mentioned before, not only the individual and the company, also the society, there are on different levels.
Yes, it depends. If you are in France or if you are in the US, you don't wage the same from the state or from the schools. And yes, I think it depends also on the cultures of the countries.
So maybe the answer to unemployment is not to preserve the employment and to preserve jobs in the companies. Maybe better is that they die, for example. But maybe the answer is to react on employability and to support employability of people and to give the companies more or less the possibility to grow and also to decrease if there's no business. Because this for me it's so amazing that normally. When there's no business in entrepreneurial thinking, then you have to shut your company and not to preserve jobs, just to preserve the employment. Maybe that we have to think in a new way there, employability and not to preserve employment.
Before, what I wanted to say is you can try to create the best environment for people, not in keep the employment in place, but if the people are not ready to accept that they need to change in the future and perhaps to change company because the company is shut down, you can't force the people to be to have the right mindset. I think that you need to condition them by the 5 times a day, etc., or you need to have to create a kind of mindset so that people can stay employable. So I think it's, as you said, it's need to be a compromise, but I think the employee must be ready for this.
If we consider employability as being the increasing value of the person in the market, when this person loses a job or quits his job. It was interesting to talk with Nancy because we have opposite views about this in Europe and in the US. In Europe, and I take the example of France, there is really a belief that employability depends on the corporation, on the organization, which means that for 2 reasons. The first one, or at least one, is when French people consider, for instance, that training has to be paid by the company. And that is, training increases your value, your employability on the market. And I know, for instance, in my MBA, some French people do not come because they don't get the finance, either from the company or from what we call the fonds gestif. So that's interesting. I think this is moving little by little, and people start to understand that they do have to invest also in the employability, so it becomes kind of a shared responsibility. Whereas in the US, it's considered to be fully individual. It's I'm responsible. But what is interesting is that in Europe, the contract between the company and the employee has changed these 40 last years. In the past, a company in Europe was promising and ensuring a job over life. Now it's not possible anymore. And then the exchange is around, I will not keep you over life, but I will help you to increase your value on the market. Okay, that is how the company continues to have a responsibility in Europe, but the individual is learning that he or she has to invest in it. And in the US, it's the idea of the personal individual responsibility about yourself, right?
Absolutely. So it's fascinating because the whole stakeholder model doesn't really work in the U.S. I mean, it's not. It's there, but it's your responsibility to improve yourself for your career. And if that career is with one company, that's fabulous. And I'm not saying I agree with this. I'm just telling you this is how Americans see it. So the idea that a company would pay for your MBA is mind-blowing. To an American, I mean, you know, it's just the way Americans do not see that it is a company's responsibility. It's very short-sighted, but that's how most Americans would say, I am helping my skill base, therefore I wouldn't expect a company to pay for it. Now, there are companies that do pay for it, and their view is I'm more likely to keep the employee. I'm also more likely to have them to be able to contribute more while they work for me. And in some cases, consulting firms, it's very common. They say, I'll pay for your MBA if you work for me for 4 years after you finish your MBA. So that does happen, but it's very there. I think the idea of the lifelong employer has been gone in the U.S. so long that people just do not see that link anymore, that the company owes them any obligation. Now, the other side to that is you get some terribly exploitative behavior from some U.S. companies of employees. They will just use you for everything you're worth and then just spit you out. So, and their reaction is, it's not my responsibility. So there's a very serious negative side to this view, but that is generally the view that's held in the U.S. Stakeholder world.
So this was interesting now that we started with a statement, laziness, a challenge for Europe and how to stay hungry. And now we are talking about individual responsibility on one hand and responsibility of the companies and also responsibility of the countries, or maybe also in politics for the responsibles in politics on the European level to work on a change in the mindsets, not to say, well, the others are responsible and I can stay lazy and just wait and see. This was also something this morning was mentioned, I think, by Georg. Wait and see. So, Georg, I have to move to give you the microphone.
I quite like this discussion. It came a little bit to what we exchanged also in our group. And in fact, there is another view of the things which is also a fundamental one. And so the ones who read Maturana with the Tree of Knowledge, we can refer to that. So in fact, there is if you refer to the paradise, Adam and Eve had nothing to do. Yeah. So there was God caring for them, and all was fine. The only thing God said is, please leave the apple away. Yeah. So, what is, if you transpose it, what is the message behind? Don't be curious. Yeah. Just remain as it is and be satisfied with what you have. And in fact, the message behind being curious is, if you take the Bible, is the change from being an animal and being a human being. Because what makes a difference between an animal and a human being is curiosity, is not accepting the things as they are and seeking for new things, seeking for knowledge. And but this basic fundament of the Bible is so deep in our cultural roots to say, how nice would it be if we would have God caring for us? God is in our concept, the state, the company, yeah. So you don't have
the boss,
whoever, yeah. So you don't have to care. Pension is assured. If I'm nice, if I don't care for the apple, all will be fine. And that's for a lot of people the interpretation of happiness. Having a secured environment, and people are seeking for that with a lot of passion. How nice would it be? But as already in the Bible, it's shown that we have gone through that. It's a way. Yeah? We are now human beings, so that means we have to care about a brutal environment, which is not nice anymore. We are not anymore in the paradise. Brings us to a situation where, in fact, what Adam and Eve had to start with that, to say, hey, we have to learn. We have to face the time after the paradise. So, related to this mental model we have in our society, there's this basic wish of having someone securing our future, securing our development, securing all the things, as long as we don't eat the apple. Yeah. So that means as long as we are nice, coming punctual to work, and making the things like our God is asking us to do. And in fact, on a philosophical way, what we are discussing here is the question, the wish of being in the paradise and the reality which is different now. And all this transposition of the state, the company, is nothing else than this wish of having it as it is deep in our culture. And that's a European culture. That's a deep European culture of having someone caring about us. And as long as this is driving us and triggering us, we will always have, let's say, debates on company responsibility, on political responsibility, but there is another root behind that. And we should perhaps more talk about this concept of what is happiness. Is happiness not having to care about the future and being in a comfort zone? Or is happiness to say, hey, now I'm facing reality and I'm self-responsible, not having any more God caring for me? And here we have a big debate in our culture. What is happiness? And if you're looking around you, we see a lot of people who are happy if they don't have to care. Coming from education, people caring for them, states caring for them, company caring for them, and who are used to define happiness in being in a comfort zone. And I think we should, starting from the early education from people, start to redefine the concept of happiness. And happiness nowadays should be more if you have the chance to learn, if you have opportunities to learn, and not if it's seen as, oh, I'm just going to this seminar if I'm paid for because it's a huge investment, it's something bad, it's something I'm coming in stress. No. Redefine the concept of what are you here on earth? It's to learn. And that's humankind, learning, being curious, wanting to see new things. If you're defining this as your basic fundamental mental model, you will survive in any situation.
Okay, thank you, Georg. I did not know that you did theology studies with the Bible. So one thing you mentioned is the difference between the animals and the human beings in this case. And this morning you said also that the difference between the animals and the human beings is the difference with the different brains. How was this called? The brain was one, the Latin word was?
You have the cerebellum and the cerebellum.
Cerebellum and the cerebellum. So the cerebellum is this one we have from the animals. Well, I have also a little bit of the cerebellum, and I did some reflection what this year I can give as gift to the people in the organization and to the speakers. And it was very easy to find something, because our title was Lazyness. So, and Carolina, you said that orange is your color. So I have something orange for you. A very special pillow. See like change. So this is the one for you. Thank you, Carolina.
Thank you so much.
And Nancy, yours is red. Yes, like your pen. And thank you very much that you did your speak this morning. And it was really great that you jumped in and took the role of Josep Maria Gomez. It was really, for me, it was a great experience that people can be so reactive. Thank you. Well, and Raphael, you said that your favorite color is green. So I have a green one for you. So also the C for change.
Thank you.
And the company color of Kraus Partner is blue. So I have a blue one for Georg. So, and an event like this is not possible without all the people in the background helping. So, for example, one for the cameraman. One for Charlotte, who helped to organize in the background. So, and one for Simon. Simon did a great job also, so thank you, Simon, for your job. And then I don't know if Huguette is here. She's not here, but for her I have a white one. I know that Huguette is going to retire in this autumn, so maybe next year we don't have Huguette to help us, but maybe that the sea is helping her to retire also. Not to become lazy, but to retire. So I hope I have thought about everybody here, helped us in the preparation. One for me, one for me. Is there one left for me? Yes, a black one. Okay, so the question is, what happens now? I hope that you stay hungry and curious to conquer the world, and we hope that you are energized and vitalized. And maybe see you next year, someplace, same time, same people, I don't know, some more maybe, and other topics, other speakers are the same, I don't know. We did not discuss this yet, and what I can say at the end is thank you, goodbye, and take care. Thank you. So this was our second edition of the Change Forum, this time European Change Forum. I think that next time it's also a European Change Forum, even if we had people from the US. So I'm very hopeful that we can see each other next year. Bye.